Sit down. Get comfortable. Tonight, we're going to talk about the one topic that makes people irrational faster than anything else: politics. You think your political beliefs are based on careful analysis of policy, evidence, and reason. They're not. Your political beliefs are tribal markers, signals of group membership, identity badges, and when someone challenges your political beliefs, your brain doesn't process it as an intellectual disagreement. It processes it as a threat to your tribe, which is why political discussions almost never change anyone's mind, which is why you can show someone overwhelming evidence that their position is wrong and they double down instead of updating, which is why smart, educated people on both sides of the political spectrum believe demonstrably false things about economics, science, and each other. Politics makes you stupid, not because political issues are complicated, though they are, not because you lack information, though you might, but because your brain treats politics like tribal warfare. And in tribal warfare, truth is the first casualty. Tonight, we're investigating tribal psychology and politics. We're going to examine why political beliefs are tribal identity, not policy analysis. The neuroscience of partisan reasoning. What happens in your brain when politics are involved. Motivated reasoning in politics. How both sides rationalize. Moral foundations theory. Why conservatives and liberals don't understand each other. The psychology of polarization. Why it's getting worse. How to escape. Depolarization strategies. Intellectual humility. And we're going to confront the uncomfortable truth. You're tribal too. You're not the exception. You're doing this right now. This is inner pigment. This is where thinking gets dangerous. Let's examine your tribe. Politics as tribal identity. The illusion of rational politics. Most people believe, I arrived at my political beliefs through careful reasoning. I evaluated the evidence. I chose the positions that make the most sense. The research says this is false. Your political beliefs were not chosen. They were inherited and absorbed. The data. Family influence. 70 to 80% of people have the same political orientation as their parents. Geography. Your zip code predicts your politics better than your education level. Peer groups. You adopt the politics of your friends, colleagues, community. If your politics were based on rational analysis, siblings raised in the same household would have similar politics. They often don't once they join different peer groups. People who study policy deeply would converge on similar conclusions. They don't. Experts are just as polarized as laypeople. Exposure to evidence would change minds. It rarely does. What actually happens? You inherit political identity early. Then you spend the rest of your life rationalizing it. Politics as Team Sport Study by Kahan and Bartels, 2016. Title: Democracy for Realists. Why Elections Do Not Produce Responsive Government. Finding: most voters don't vote based on policy. They vote based on group identity. Evidence: voters punish incumbents for shark attacks and droughts, things politicians can't control. Voters support policies based on who proposes them, not what the policies are. Voters change their policy preferences when their party changes position. Example: Republican voters on Syria airstrikes. When Obama proposed, 22% supported. When Trump proposed, 86% supported. The policy didn't change. The party leader changed. Support flipped. Democratic voters on Syria airstrikes. When Obama proposed, 38% supported. When Trump proposed, 37% supported. Democrats were consistent, not because they're more rational, but because Trump proposed it and they oppose Trump. The lesson: people don't have policy preferences. They have team preferences. The Partisan Brain Neuroscience Study, Kaplan, Gimbel, and Harris, 2016. Researchers put partisans, strong Democrats and Republicans, in fMRI machines, showed them statements from their own party and the opposing party. When viewing statements from their own party, prefrontal cortex activates, logical reasoning. Critical thinking engaged. When viewing statements from the opposing party, amygdala activates, fear, threat detection. Insula activates, disgust. Prefrontal cortex deactivates. Logical reasoning shuts down. Translation: your brain treats opposing political views as physical threats, not intellectual disagreements. Threats. This is why political arguments feel so visceral. You're not debating policy. You're defending yourself from perceived attack. Identity protective cognition. Dan Kahan's research. Yale Law School. Cultural cognition. People process information through the lens of their cultural identity. Study. Researchers gave people a math problem designed to look like political data. Version A. Data about a skin cream's effectiveness. Version B. The same data, but framed as gun control policy effectiveness. Result: Version A. Skin cream. People solved the math problem correctly regardless of political affiliation. Version B. Gun control. People's math skills disappeared. They solved the problem to match their political beliefs, not the actual data. Highly educated people were worse at this. Why? Because intelligence helps you rationalize. Smart people are better at twisting data to fit their predetermined conclusions. Kahan's conclusion: the more numerate people are, the better they are at finding patterns in data that fit their cultural worldview, even when those patterns don't exist. Translation: politics makes smart people stupid. Moral foundations: why conservatives and liberals don't understand each other. Jonathan Haidt's Moral Foundations. Theory: Jonathan Haidt, social psychologist, author of The Righteous Mind, asked, why do conservatives and liberals talk past each other? His answer: they have different moral foundations. They care about different things. The 6 moral foundations. 1. Care/harm. Caring for others, preventing suffering. Liberals: high importance. Conservatives: moderate importance. 2. Fairness/cheating. Justice, rights, equality. Liberals: high, equality, redistribution. Conservatives: high, proportionality, meritocracy, but they define fairness differently. 3. Loyalty/betrayal. Loyalty to tribe, nation, group. Liberals: low, conservatives: high, 4. Authority/subversion. Respect for tradition, hierarchy, institutions. Liberals: low, conservatives: high, 5. Sanctity/degradation, purity, sacredness, disgust. Liberals: low, conservatives: high, 6. Liberty/oppression, freedom from domination. Liberals: high, freedom from corporate/systemic oppression. Conservatives: high, freedom from government. The key insight: liberals primarily use 2 foundations, care and fairness, as equality. Conservatives use all 6. This is why. Liberals don't understand why conservatives care about loyalty, authority, tradition. They see these as arbitrary or oppressive. Conservatives don't understand why liberals don't value loyalty, patriotism, or traditional morality. They see liberals as disloyal or immoral. Neither side is evil. They're operating from different moral matrices. The empathy gap. Study, Haidt and colleagues, asked liberals to answer moral questions as if they were conservative, asked conservatives to answer moral questions as if they were liberal. Result: Conservatives could approximate liberal answers reasonably well. Liberals failed to predict conservative answers. They thought conservatives would be more extreme than they actually are. Why? Conservatives understand liberal foundations, care/fairness, because they value them too, just less. Liberals don't understand loyalty/authority/sanctity because these foundations don't resonate with them at all. The result? Liberals think conservatives are evil, don't care about suffering, bigoted. Conservatives think liberals are naive, don't value tradition, weak on loyalty. Neither is true. They're just playing different moral games. The failure of facts. Why facts don't change political minds? Because political disagreements aren't about facts. They're about values. Example, climate change, liberal framing. Climate change will harm the vulnerable. We must act to protect future generations. Care/harm foundation. Conservative response. I don't trust the government to solve this. It's alarmist. It threatens economic freedom. Liberty/oppression, skepticism of authority. Showing more climate data doesn't help. The disagreement isn't about the data. It's about trust in institutions, value of economic freedom versus environmental protection, role of government. Conservatives aren't anti-science. They're anti-government intervention. If you frame climate action as innovation and entrepreneurship will solve this. Liberty. We need to protect our national heritage for future generations. Loyalty. Sanctity. Conservatives are more receptive. The lesson? Facts only matter after you're speaking the same moral language. The neuroscience of political tribalism. The Partisan Brain Revisited. Study. Westen et al., 2006. fMRI study. During the 2004 U.S. election, Bush versus Kerry, showed partisan statements from both candidates that contained obvious contradictions. Asked, does this candidate contradict himself? When evaluating the opposing candidate, brain activates logical reasoning areas, spots contradiction easily. Yes, he's a hypocrite. When evaluating their own candidate, brain activates emotional regulation areas, not logic areas, rationalizes the contradiction. That's not really a contradiction because then, once they've rationalized, the brain's reward centers, nucleus accumbens, activate. Translation: your brain rewards you with dopamine for defending your tribe. This is why political arguments feel good even when you're wrong. Your brain is giving you pleasure for tribal loyalty. The amygdala and political orientation. Study, Kahan et al., 2011. Brain structure correlates with political orientation. Conservatives, larger amygdala, threat detection, fear response. Liberals, larger anterior cingulate cortex, conflict monitoring, openness to new information. What does this mean? It doesn't mean one side is better. It means conservatives and liberals have different psychological profiles. Conservatives, more sensitive to threat, value stability and order, prefer familiar, traditional. Liberals, more open to novelty, value change and progress, prefer new, diverse. Both traits are adaptive in different contexts. In stable times, conservatism preserves what works. In changing times, liberalism adapts. But this also means conservatives are biologically primed to see threats: crime, immigration, cultural change. Liberals are biologically primed to see opportunities: diversity, innovation, social change. Neither is right. They're seeing the world through different neurological lenses: righteous anger and dopamine. Why political outrage is addictive? Social media amplifies moral outrage. When you see a post that violates your values, amygdala activates, threat. You feel outrage. You share/comment, punish the violator, signal virtue to your tribe. Dopamine reward, repeat. Studies show content that triggers moral outrage gets shared 20% more than neutral content. Platforms optimize for engagement. Moral outrage equals engagement equals ad revenue. So algorithms feed you content that makes you angry. You think you're staying informed. You're actually getting addicted to righteous anger. Dehumanization of the other side. Study, Kataili and Bruneau, 2017. Researchers showed partisans the ascent of man-image, ape to human evolution. Asked, where would you place opposing party members on this scale? Result, significant percentages of both Democrats and Republicans rated the other side as less than fully human. Democrats rating Republicans, 15 to 20% rated them as subhuman. Republicans rating Democrats, 10 to 15% rated them as subhuman. This is dehumanization, and it's on both sides. When you dehumanize the other side, you don't need to listen to them. You don't need to empathize. Violence becomes easier to justify. This is how genocides start. The psychology of polarization, negative partisanship, effective polarization, disliking the other side more than you like your own side. Study, Abramowitz and Webster, 2016. Voters increasingly motivated by hatred of the other party rather than support for their own. Survey question. Would you be upset if your child married someone from the other party? 1960, 5% said yes. 2010, 33% said yes. 2020, 50% plus said yes. For context, more parents would be upset about their child marrying someone from the other party than marrying someone of a different race. Let that sink in. Political identity is now stronger than racial identity as a source of prejudice. Filter bubbles and echo chambers. How social media creates political tribalism, algorithmic sorting. Facebook, Twitter, TikTok, YouTube all use algorithms that show you content you'll engage with. You engage most with content that confirms your beliefs, makes you outraged at the other side. Result, you see a distorted view of reality. You think your side is reasonable, nuanced, compassionate. The other side is extreme, stupid, evil. But the algorithm is showing you the best of your side, the worst of the other side. Example, if you're liberal, you see thoughtful liberal commentary and the craziest MAGA conspiracy theorists. You think, all conservatives are like this? If you're conservative, you see thoughtful conservative analysis and the craziest woke activists. You think, all liberals are like this. Both are wrong. Most people on both sides are normal. The algorithm just shows you the extremes. The outrage industrial complex. Media profits from polarization. Fox News. The left is destroying America. MSNBC. The right is fascist. Both making billions. Why? Because fear and outrage drive viewership. Calm, nuanced discussion doesn't. Study. Pew Research, 2014. People who watch ideologically consistent news are more politically engaged, more likely to vote, more likely to donate, more polarized. The business model: 1. Scare your audience about the other side. 2. They tune in daily for updates on the threat. 3. Sell ads. 4. Profit. Both sides do this. It's not a left or right problem. It's a business model problem. Outrage is profitable. Confirmation. Bias in politics. Political confirmation bias is stronger than any other domain. Study. Lord Ross and Lepper, 1979, showed people mixed evidence on the death penalty. Some studies showed deterrence, some didn't. Result: pro-death penalty. Accepted pro-studies, dismissed anti-studies. Anti-death penalty. Accepted anti-studies, dismissed pro-studies. Both groups became more confident in their original beliefs after seeing the same evidence. This is why political discussions never resolve. You're not evaluating evidence. You're defending your team. Why you're doing this too. You are not the exception. Right now you're thinking, this is interesting, but I'm not like this. I'm rational. I evaluate evidence fairly. Statistically, you're wrong. The bias blind spot. Pronin, Lynn, and Ross, 2002. People are excellent at recognizing bias in others. People are terrible at recognizing bias in themselves. Study. Asked people, how biased are you compared to the average person? Result: everyone rated themselves as less biased than average. Statistically impossible. The uncomfortable truth: if you think you're immune to tribalism, you're experiencing tribalism right now. You're thinking, those tribal people are irrational. I'm not. That's your tribe talking. Intellectual tribes. Tribalism isn't just Democrat versus Republican. There are intellectual tribes. Rationalists look down on normies who believe things without evidence. Postmodernists dismiss naive realists who believe in objective truth. Skeptics attack believers who accept claims without peer review. Libertarians see government as inherently corrupt. Socialists see capitalism as inherently exploitative. Each tribe has shared beliefs, shared enemies, shared language, shared identity, and each tribe thinks, we're the rational ones. Everyone else is deluded. All of them are tribal, including you. The tribal checklist. How to tell if your political beliefs are tribal. Do you find yourself agreeing with your side even when you don't fully understand the issue? Do you dismiss information from the other side without seriously considering it? Do you interpret ambiguous actions by the other side as malicious? Do you feel moral superiority over the other side? Do you spend more time criticizing the other side than critiquing your own? Do you feel uncomfortable when someone from your side defends a position from the other side? Do you question the intelligence or morality of people who disagree with you politically? If you answered yes to 3+, you're tribal. What tribalism costs you? Tribalism makes you 1. Less accurate. You reject true information if it comes from the other side. 2. Less persuasive. Tribal reasoning doesn't convince anyone outside your tribe. 3. Less happy. Constant outrage and threat perception equals chronic stress. 4. Less connected. You lose relationships with people outside your tribe. 5. Easier to manipulate. Politicians and media profit by keeping you angry and afraid. The question: is tribal loyalty worth being wrong, stressed, and manipulated? How to escape tribalism. Intellectual humility. Recognize your political beliefs are probably wrong about something. Not necessarily fundamentally wrong, but wrong about details, mechanisms, trade-offs. Because policy is complicated. Anyone who's 100% certain about complex issues, healthcare, immigration, climate, economics, is overconfident. Practice. I believe X, but I could be wrong. I don't know enough about Y to have a strong opinion. That's a good point. I hadn't considered that. Steelman, don't strawman. Strawmanning, misrepresent the other side's position to make it easy to attack. Example: liberals want open borders and unlimited immigration. Reality: most liberals support immigration reform. not completely open borders. Steel manning. Represent the other side's position in its strongest, most charitable form. Example. Some people believe that more generous immigration policies would benefit the economy and reflect humanitarian values while balancing security concerns. Why Steelman? If you can defeat the strongest version of an argument, you've actually tested your belief. If you only attack weak versions, you're just performing for your tribe. Diversify your information diet. Don't just read/watch your side. Read the other side's best arguments. If you're liberal, read National Review, The Federalist, Reason Magazine. If you're conservative, read The Atlantic, Vox, The New Republic. Not to hate read, to understand. Ask, what do smart people on the other side see that I don't? What are the strongest arguments against my position? Separate policy from identity. Try this thought experiment. Imagine your political identity flipped overnight. If you're liberal, imagine waking up conservative. If you're conservative, imagine waking up liberal. Would you defend policies you currently oppose? Attack policies you currently support? See the other side's arguments as more reasonable? Probably yes, because your political beliefs are downstream of your identity, not upstream. Once you recognize this, you can start evaluating policies on their merits, not based on which tribe supports them. Prioritize truth over tribe. This is the hardest one. Sometimes the other side is right. Sometimes your side is wrong. Are you willing to admit when your side screws up? Give credit when the other side does something good? Change your mind when evidence contradicts your belief? Or is tribal loyalty more important than truth? Build cross-tribal relationships. The best antidote to tribalism. Have friends from the other side. Research shows contact with out-group members reduces prejudice and polarization. But not superficial contact. Deep contact. Conversations where you genuinely listen. Shared activities, not political. Seeing them as full humans, not caricatures. When you have conservative friends, you can't dismiss all conservatives as evil. When you have liberal friends, you can't dismiss all liberals as naive. They're your friends. You know they're good people. This breaks the dehumanization cycle. So that's tribal psychology. Politics makes you stupid. Not because political issues are inherently irrational, but because your brain treats politics as tribal warfare. And in tribal warfare, truth doesn't matter. The other side is the enemy. Loyalty to your tribe is paramount. The uncomfortable truths. 1. Your political beliefs are mostly inherited, not chosen. 2. You rationalize your beliefs after the fact. You don't reason to them. 3. When you see evidence contradicting your beliefs, your brain shuts down logic and activates threat response. 4. You think you're the exception. You're not. 5. Both sides do this. Tribalism is symmetrical. So what do? You recognize you're tribal. You practice intellectual humility. You steelman the other side. You prioritize truth over loyalty. And you accept you'll never be perfectly rational, but you can be less tribal than you are now. Because here's the final truth. The other side is not evil. They're not stupid. They're not your enemy. They're just playing a different moral game with a different neurological lens and a different tribal identity, just like you. This has been Inner Pigment. Thanks for confronting your tribalism with me tonight. If you want to go deeper, moral psychology, dehumanization, depolarization strategies, let me know. Stay curious, stay humble, and maybe talk to someone from the other side.